and good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you. If you're more people of the tube, Purple today with feeling Grant and all is in your world. Hello there, all. Welcome to the Q&A Wednesday, everybody. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's dive into question one today. Splosh. Okay, so question one. I read that John Frusciante used Seymour Duncan SSL1 pickups. Have you played them, and what do you think about them? The rumour is that John had SSL1s in his... Well, originally John had the original pickups in his 62. This is according to John. According to John, his 62 Strat was all original until the Stadium Arcadium sessions where the original pickups died and he replaced them with Seymour Duncan SSL1s, which he already had in his 55 Strat. And as soon as he liked his 55 Strat, he put the SSL1s in his 62, and that's the sound for the Stadium Arcadium era live. Dave Lee, though, John's guitar tech, has another story where he says they weren't SSL1s, they were just standard stock Fender pickups. He said they were stock 1998 Fender pickups, which can't be because John's pickups were staggered pole pieces and 1998 Fender USA Strats were flat pole piece, which means that the poles didn't stick out the pickup cover, they were just flat. So I don't know if John did use SSL1s. We'll probably never know for sure unless one of us gets hold of his 62 and takes it apart and has a look. Because I'm not 100% sure the ones he has in his 55 SSLs, but I don't know. I don't know the guitar. I haven't been inside those guitars. Dave Lee has, and John obviously has. But I don't know. There's a conflicting story between Dave and John, and it's like which one do you believe? Because John said he was all original, and it was the original pickups until Stadium Arcadium, and then they died, and then they changed to SSL1s. Whereas Dave said from the get-go they had American Standard pickups in his 62. So. But also, I used to have a magazine about John, and they're interviewing Dave Lee, and Dave Lee said all John's guitars are stock, so I don't know. SSL1s do have a very stratty sound to them. So they're good pickups. I had them in my Oswald Strat, my first ever Oswald Strat. I had them in there. And they are really, really good pickups, but I got very bored of them. Like, they sound good, but the character when I would go to, say, my White Strat or my other guitars, they always seemed a bit like lifeless. Like, if I hadn't played any of the guitar that day and I went to the Oswald with the Seymour Duncans, it'd be really, really good and I'd really, really like it. But if I played like my White Strat or any of my other guitars before I played that, I would notice they didn't sound as alive. They sounded a bit restrained and a bit kind of muffled, like someone had their hand over the mouth. They didn't sound open enough, and I didn't really get on with that eventually, so I changed them eventually. I've got Evil Sheeps in there now, which I much prefer. I really do much prefer the Evil Sheeps, and also in my other Oswald, I've got Nick's pickups, which I do prefer as well to the SSLs. I still have the SSLs, and I'd probably put them in another guitar, but they're not going to be my first choice for pickups, if that makes any sense. They're okay. But for me, I didn't like them. I much prefer the sound of my Tex-Mex pickups in my White Strat, or the Oswald 62s, or the Evil Sheeps. The SSLs were quite low on the list. They're good sounding pickups. They're not rubbish sounding at all. I just think there's better pickups out there than the SSL1s for John's tone. Like, say, Tex-Mex, Evil Sheep, Tone Rider. For me, anyway, I found that SSL1s didn't quite capture the John thing. They sounded great, but they just lacked a bit of life. They didn't feel very alive. They seemed to die off very quickly. It was just very kind of like, meh. You know what I mean? When you'd play, you'd just be like, meh, sounds alright. You know what I mean? And then I put the Evil Sheeps in, and I was like, the guitar just came alive. And I was like, oh, there we go, there it is, it's back. And Yeah, oddly enough, actually, since I took the SSL1s out of my number one Oswald, it's like I love that guitar even more, which I didn't think was possible. But the sound of it with the Evil Sheeps just kind of like really give that guitar its own voice, and I absolutely adore that guitar, and I really love that guitar, as you could probably tell by the wear. But I'll some people have been asking for a close-up video of the Oswald, the number one. I'll show you that. It hasn't worn a great deal since the last time I did it, but it has worn a bit more, and I'll try and get a video of that done soon, a close-up of it, just to show you how it's progressing, so to say. Because it does look more battered and beaten than my white Strat. I've had my white Strat up there for 14 years, and I've only had the Oswald number one for 2 years, and it looks more battered and beaten than my white Strat, simply because it's got a nitro finish and not a polyurethane finish, which is like hard as nails. So yeah, I really love the way the Oswald's going. Okay, so yeah, Seymour Duncan SSL1s are okay pickups for John, but I do think there are better pickups out there. Like I said, like, you know, Evil Sheep, Nick's 62s, Tex-Mex are my favourite, full stop. You know, even Tone Rider pickups I think sounded better. The 60s Tone Rider pickups are amazing. I haven't really tried any others. Texas Specials are a bit too hot. They don't really quite have the vintage vibe about them. Are a bit too outputty, which I think is the problem with the SSL1s. I didn't really like the output of them, and they felt very unbalanced to the way I like to hear a Strat pickup. It just didn't work for me. But I do think there's better pickups out there. Tex-Mex, I think, being the best ones. The staggered pole piece Tex-Mex pickups are just like, that's it for me. I'm happy. You know, they're my favourite pickups because they've just got. It's just the sound that I'm so accustomed to. That's why I love it. But yeah, it's really, really nice. Okay, so yeah. If you want to go the SSL route, then yeah, I would. But again, I personally think there's better pickups out there than the SSL ones for that kind of John tone myself personally. Like I say, Tex-Mex, Nick's 62s, Tone Rider, and Evil Sheep, to mention a few. Okay, so hope I answered your question. I kind of did a bit of a tangent on that, I think. I don't know. How long have I been going? Yes, that was a tangent, Dave. Okay, so moving on to question 2 now, everybody. Question 2 is, will you ever do a compilation video of your intros? I don't know. Quite a few people have asked about that, like, you know, compilation of just like, you know, intros back to back, so you can just press play and they just go. It's gonna be a lot of editing, and at this point in time, sadly, I don't have the time to do that. With other videos and doing t-shirts and all sort of other stuff I'm kind of working with and on, shall I say, is I don't really have the time at this point in time to do a compilation video, sadly. I would like to. It's just a case of getting around to doing it because there's so many. It's like, you know, it's where do we even start kind of thing. So I don't know. I won't say no. But it's maybe something for the future. Maybe not something for kind of right now. But maybe in the future. Might do it. I've always wanted to do a compilation of all my Untitled's and have them link into each other, one after the other. But again, that'd be a lot of editing because it's like 30 something of them. So it'd be quite a lot of them to do. But yeah, maybe not maybe. Hopefully in the future, if I get like, you know, plenty of time to actually get it done, I will do that. I'd love to do that. Actually, it'd be really good fun. I might actually set aside like 2 or 3 days, like maybe over the weekend or something, when I normally kind of like, you know, don't do videos. Well, I do on videos. I do videos on a Saturday or Sunday, depending. But on one of those days, maybe I'll do it for like a Monday one week when I get time to do it. So yes, fingers crossed for the future. Yes, I will hopefully do that. So yeah, hope that's the question. Moving on, question 3 now, everybody. Question 3. Fingers look really weird there. Anyway, I'm getting carried away playing around with the camera. Woo! Okay, so anyway, question 3, everybody. Is, what's your opinion on John Frusciante as a person? I don't really have an opinion on John as a person, because I don't know him. There was a Q&A question a while back. Was it last week or week before? Which was like, do we idealise John? And I think I think we do. But as a person, what do I think of John? I don't really have an opinion on that. I don't want to say anything because I don't know him. And it would just be a... it wouldn't be fair for one, like say just because of the fact I didn't know, and it would just be kind of like a generalization of what I've been told and what I've read about him. You know, being difficult and this, that, and the other, and you know, but been really, really nice, lovely person, very, very generous and giving, and but at the same time quite difficult and stubborn and very, very driven to know what he wants and stuff like that. So it's quite hard to say again because I don't know the guy. I don't know him, so I won't like to say. I do have an idea of what he's like in my head, my own kind of like mental image of what John's like in my head, but I can guarantee that's not anything like what he's like. But it might be, I don't know. But I say I've never met him, and if I did meet him, which would be like, you know, scary, but lovely at the same time. I would love that. People always ask, what would you say to John if you met him? The first thing I would say is thank you. Because that, you know, he's my biggest hero. John's my biggest hero on guitar. He's my biggest influence, my biggest hero. And he's the guy I took most from. And so, and he's given me this passion for music that, and this love for music that I can't understate enough. You know what I mean? It's the main reason I play guitar is because of John. You know what I mean? And obviously, you know, there's like Jimi Hendrix and Rory Gallagher and Peter Green and Mike McCready and Paul Kossoff and Richie Blackmore and all those guys. But John is the number one reason I play guitar. So if I ever met John, I would just like to say to him, thank you. You know what I mean? For giving me what he's given me. And please take this CD that I've dedicated to you. I would love for John to hear my For John album. Because it's for him. I mean, I wrote it with him in mind. You know what I mean? He was on my mind for the entire time I recorded that album, and it was my thank you to him. It's 8 songs that kind of like I really felt like I pushed it was him kind of thing. You know what I mean? There was something, you know, I really wanted to kind of really channel him in that album, and I don't really feel I succeeded very well. I mean, it you know, but you never think out about your own stuff anyway. You always think your music that you write and record is never good enough. So you just kind of best idea is to record it and get it out there and forget all about it. Record it to how you like it, and then just get it out there and just kind of like, you know, hope people like it as well. But I would love for John to have a copy of it and listen to it, even if he hated it and put it in the bin. Just knowing that one of my albums that got to him would be like a dream come true. To meet him would be ridiculously dream come true. It'd be like, you know, heaven, that would be. But I don't think that'll ever happen. I would like it to happen. I like to kind of daydream sometimes about, like, you know, oh, I'd love to do this, and I'd love to talk to him about that, and I'd love to jam with him on guitar and this, that, and the other. But do I think it'll ever happen? No. You know, from a realistic standpoint, the odds on me meeting John Frusciante are slim to none. Definitely slim to none, which is really upsetting. And the same thing with kind of like, you know, meeting Flea, who is another person I would just adore to meet. I'd also like to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, because he's like one of my childhood heroes who I grew up watching in films, and I follow him on Instagram, and he's just one of those people that just comes across as like just a genuinely awesome human being. And I'd just love to meet. It's like there's certain people I'd love to meet in this world. Mike McCready being another. And but the odds on meeting these people are so slim. You know, through one reason or another, it just won't happen. But John is my all-time. If I had to pick one person, like one of my heroes to meet, it would have to be John. I'd love to just talk to him and just sit and just like natter away about music and, you know, other stuff here and there. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't want to jade myself into thinking stuff like that will happen, because you're only going to get disappointed when it doesn't, you know what I mean? So if I kind of come from the angle of, it's not going to happen, but if it does, then you know what I mean? I'm not going to get upset about not meeting him, you know what I mean? The same thing with Flea, because Flea is one of those people I'd love to meet and jam with. Almost, and I say almost, more than I'd like to jam with John. I'd almost like to talk to John more, and I'd like to talk to John more, and I'd like to jam with Flea more, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? I'd love to pick John's brain on like music and this, that, and the other, although I would love to play with him as well. But I would almost love to play with Flea more than I'd love to talk to Flea, and I'd love to play. I'd love to talk to John more, and I'd love to play with him. I don't know if that makes any sense, but because I've been playing with Flea technically since I first started playing guitar, because I've been playing along to live albums and the studio albums and jams that they did, and I was doing when they did that gig in Giza at the Pyramids. And Flea was doing the jams, and Josh didn't join in. I had my little my Boss Katana practice amp just up on the desk here, and I was just playing along, and I was just like, God, I'd love to do this in reality. The words don't express that. So yeah, I would almost like to jam with Flea more than I like to jam with John, but I'd like to talk to John more than I'd like to talk to Flea, if that makes any sense. It's a bit of a weird thing. Neither will happen. I just don't believe it. Which is maybe, I don't know. But, it's just, it's one of those things. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, now, I've actually got a recording of this somewhere. Phone video of it. It's terrible quality, but you can still see it. Well, you can still hear it, sorry, kind of. But when I saw the Chili Peppers live in 2006 at Don Valley Stadium, I've got the thing here. I don't know if you can see that. But on the 6th of June 2006, coming up for its anniversary, good gravy, they did Snow. And John's backing vocals at Don Valley with Snow was so incredible. They soared. That's the only way I can do it. They got soared over the crowd and over the music, and you could just hear them so well. And it was so awesome. It was just so awesome to hear his voice. And John did 3 solo songs that night at Don Valley. I know he did quite a lot of solo songs at Don Valley. He did quite a lot of solo songs at Hyde Park as well. Come to think of it, he didn't just do one. He did a couple. But yeah, John's backing vocals are just legendary. I really do, and especially in songs like Other Side, they really are. And Snow, Snow is amazing backing vocals. Tell Me Baby as well is gorgeous backing vocals. Scar Tissue has gorgeous backing vocals. But Other Side, I think, is a real kind of whoa. You're outshining the lead vocalist here, John. Nothing against Anthony's vocal in it, but John's backing vocals at Slane Castle or any other version, any version of Other Side, kind of By the Way era, is really unreal. It's just so much power in it. It's just gorgeous sounding, absolutely gorgeous sounding, and it's just so melodic and so. It just gets you. It just really gets you. It really does, and it's just so awe-inspiring. So awesome. Okay, so yeah, they're my favourite backing vocals of John, definitely. And you also asked, final thing of question 3 was, have you got any tips for playing Delta Blues? The number 1 tip for Delta Blues Telecaster is you will always want a bass note going. You constantly want that ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Yeah, that constant beat needs to be going. And never end on a full chord. Always end on an unresolved chord. Robert Johnson style. New Robert Johnson book coming out, which I'm very excited about. Anyway. But yeah, Delta Blues, you constantly want that bass note. Dun, 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 dun. It doesn't have to be constant like that. Some of these Delta Blues guys could actually keep it going dun, 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 like that, solidly, and actually do independent things over the top of that, which comes down to the phrase, the quote from Keith Richards. When Keith Richards first heard Robert Johnson play, he said, "Who's the other guitarist?" And then when somebody said, "There isn't one, it's just him," he was like, "What?" Because it does sound like there's 2 guitarists. It sounds like there's a rhythm guitarist and then there's like a lead guitarist. And that's the kind of key to that Delta blues kind of tone and sound, if you will, is that constant bass. Boom, 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 boom. And it needs to be there. It can't just be kind of like, you know, it doesn't need to be constant. You can kind of like do bits where it kind of like goes, instead of going, if you're doing a kind of a da-da-da-da, you know, your bass note can go with it. You know, something like that. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that. It's really quiet. But, you know, that constant bass is really, really key to that kind of like Delta blues style. You can hear it in all, you know, all walks of Delta blues. There's always that bum, 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 or bum, 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 and all different rhythms going on. It's really important to have that constant low note, kind of so to say, because it just adds that. It puts everything into a context for starters, and it just adds more oomph to it. So especially because, like, you know, you're on your own most of the time. Delta blues guys were normally solo guys. You know, Johnny Shines, Robert Johnson, Son House. You know, they're all you know, Big Bill Brunsey. They're all solo guys. Charlie Patton, Reverend Gary Davis. They're all solo guys, so they have to do a lot with the guitar. They have to cover as much ground as possible. So, you know, you constantly want that bass. That is the ultimate kind of tip, I would say, for anyone doing Delta blues stuff. You don't want to be just kind of like doing bass. It doesn't want to stop just because you're doing like a lick. You know what I mean? It needs to constantly keep going. You need that constant boom, 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 a low note. You know what I mean? Which is why playing in E and A and open tunings with slide tunings is really important, because you can really get away with in A. You've got your 12 bar in your top three strings. You know, you got your E, you got your 1, you got your D, which is your 4, and then you got your 5, your low E. So you can kind of go. Change to a 4. Back to a 1. Back to a 5. Back to 5. 4. 1. 5. I'm out of tune. But yeah, constantly having that bass note going is really, really key to that Delta blues tone. You can, like I say, you hear it in Robert Johnson and all sorts of other stuff. And say open tunings will help you out with that as well, especially for slide if you're playing like, you know, kind of Robert Johnson-y kind of somehow slide kind of style. So that'd be my main tip for that. I might do a bit more of an in-depth lesson on that at some point. I don't think I've done a video on that, have I? What is wrong with you, Dave? I might do a video on that very soon, like, you know, talking about, like, you know, a couple of Delta blues kind of things and a couple of progressions and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I've done it. I don't think I have, but if I have, I'll do it again. I might get something that I forgot to talk about in the first one. I don't know. But yeah, so that would be my kind of tip for playing Delta blues. Is like constant bass. You know what I mean? Even if it doesn't need to be done like some of the old guys could do. You know, it can follow what you're doing with your other fingers if they don't work independently. Because mine don't. I can't do it. It's really hard to do. It's like a pianist when they can kind of like split their brain and do kind of like two things. It's incredible. And drummers. I can't do that. So it doesn't need to be perfect, but that's my number one tip for kind of playing that Delta blues thing, is that bass constantly going. It really is important to have that ba-dum, bum, bum, you know, that kind of thing. It really is important. And I'll do a video on that actually at some point, because it's really, really cool, and I'll talk a bit more about open tunings and slide and stuff, and changing rhythms and extending parts past 12 bar. Sometimes you can get a 13 bar or a 14 bar blues and stuff like that, and 16 bar blues, which is just like, you know, and also missing beats, you know what I mean? So you get a bar of 4/4, and then there's a bar of 3/4, and then you can have like 2/4 and then 5/4, and all sorts of other weird time signatures that they would just do because it was either how they felt, or it was a mistake, or they just wanted to do it. You know, it depends. I do get the impression on some of Robert Johnson's recordings, he starts a song one way and then goes, I've already done this, let me quickly change. Yeah, I get that impression sometimes. Especially if I Have Possession Over Judgment Day starts like that. And kind of like, he starts his song very similar to another song if I have possession over judgment, he starts it again, and then he totally changes it. And I feel he's kind of like, because Robert Johnson was good enough to do that. I feel like he's like, I've already done this, haven't I? I'll just quickly change, and that was just what he did. So yeah, I hope that's a question. Move on to question 4 now, everybody. Question 4. Is it possible to fit a Fender pick guard onto a vintage V6? Yes, it is, but you might have to do some sanding around the neck pocket, because invariably they overlap on the bass side. So you might have to do a bit of sanding. What I would do is I would take the neck off, fit the scratch plate to the vintage, and then I would basically cut away or sand away what I didn't need of the scratch plate, and then put the neck back down. It's what I did to mine. Mine wasn't a Fender guard, it was just an aftermarket one. But I had to cut away some of the bass side, or sand it away. I just used a really like a file almost. It wasn't sandpaper. I just used a file. So yeah, you might find that, and it also might need a little bit on the treble side as well. But they do fit. But the neck pocket is not quite right dimensions for a Fender's pick guard, so you might have to alter it slightly. But it can be done, and it's not a lot of work, and it's very easy to do. It's only plastic, so it's very easy to do. So yeah, that's very possible and very easy to do. Okay, question 5, everybody. What are your thoughts on Roy Buchanan, the Telecaster King? Roy Buchanan is one of those kind of like guitarists who should be a household name but isn't a household name, and not sure why. You know what I mean? He's just scary. And it's really his life is really sad. If you look into his life and how it ended and this, that, and the other, it's just really sad. It just wasn't. I don't know. He deserved more. Really deserved more, but he just didn't get it, sadly. But what a awesome playing guitar! What a guitarist he was! Stunning player, absolutely stunning player. I first heard of him in 2007 when I was in London at college at the ICMP in London. A friend of mine called Tony, he gave me a DVD of Steve Ray Vaughan live at Austin City Limits, and on this DVD was Roy Buchanan at Austin City Limits live, and he was doing The Messiah Will Come Again and Hey Joe and Roy's Blues and what else did he do? I forget what else he did, but and it was just like, whoa. It's like, this man's a monster. You know, he really is an absolute beast of a guitarist. And I love that there's a bit in that Austin City Limits thing where he's doing this solo with one hand, and he just goes over and grabs a drink and just drinks while he's playing. And it's just like, that's really cool. And it's like, I think Danny Gatton did that kind of thing as well, and other country and blues guitarists do that. It's kind of like a nice little trick. I've seen Jeff Healey did it as well. I've seen Jeff Healey do that, which is even more incredible considering, you know, you think about the way he played and he was, you know, blind. But and Jeff is just like one of those underrated guitarists as well. Jeff's one of those guitarists that, like, again, should be a household name and isn't for some reason beyond my understanding. But Roy, coming back to Roy Buchanan, what just awesome. Just an absolute force of nature on the guitar. The tone, the way he played, his technique was so fast. You know, and he's bending as well. I mean, you can see he had really light strings on his Telecaster. They didn't look like big strings at all on his Telly, because he could do these incredible bends. Huge, huge bends. Especially if you look at some of that Austin City Limits footage. You get a really good shot of the fretboard, and you're just like, you know, forget Dave Gilmour bends. You know, these are Roy's bends, like massive. Like, you know, it's pretty much off the fretboard from over the top of the fretboard and back round again. So yeah, Roy Buchanan was a monster and very underrated, sadly. And they'll say very tragic character, really. He's a lot like kind of Nick Drake and those kind of guys, you know, they're very, very tragic kind of characters, really, who deserved more and just sadly didn't get it. And that's heartbreaking, to say the least. It really is. It's like, you know, there's always guitarists out there, and I can think of a million of them, who just deserve more and they just don't get it, and other people get it, and it's just like, well, you know, What's that about? Rory Gallagher isn't into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. Why is that? That to me is totally wrong. Rory should have been in the Hall of Fame by now. Rory Gallagher should have been in there ages ago. And that, you know, Rory Gallagher's another one he gets overlooked. Peter Green is another one. Even Paul Kossoff, until Joe Bonamassa kind of spoke about Paul, he wasn't, and he still isn't really kind of like, you know, some people don't know who Paul Kossoff is. You know, and understand his playing and how soulful that man was. It's very, very sad. You know, there's a lot of these really tragic guitar players, and Roy Buchanan's one of them. Just an absolute monster guitarist. Absolutely evil. King of a Telecaster, he really was. You know, he's an absolute beast on the Telecaster. I don't know if he ever used any pedals, but I've only ever seen him plug straight into a Fender amp, and it's normally facing the other way. It's facing away from him, because he obviously has it cranked to the teeth. And you wouldn't want that facing you. He normally has it backwards, actually, with its back facing him. So the speakers are facing the total different direction. So if he's facing that way, the speakers are facing that way. But yeah, I love Roy Buchanan's playing. It's just sad, really, when you think about, like, you know, what he should have had and what he got, kind of thing. I mean, he was kind of well known, but not to the point where he should have been more well known. So to say, you know, a lot of people steal other people's limelight, and they're not as good and not as deserving. You know, I think quite a few people who kind of, like, you know, Roy Buchanan left in the dust who were bigger than him. You know, but you know, that's the way it goes. You know, sometimes you don't get the respect and praise. You know, certain guitarists don't get the respect and praise they deserve. You know, Roy Buchanan being one of them, Jeff Healey being another. You know, Peter Green, Rory Gallagher. You know, they get very overlooked by other guitarists. You know, which is very, very sad. You know, Stan Webb from Chicken Shack. Ah! Stan Webb. If you listen to those old recordings of Stan Webb playing in the 60s, you know, it's scary. He's just like, wow. It's just like, you know, it's almost as good as Peter Green. You know, the expressions there, the tones there, it's just unreal. You know, so many guitarists who don't get a look in. Martin Barr of Jethro Tull, he was a stunning guitarist. You know, he's quite well known, but not really. You know, there's so many of them that deserve more, and sadly don't get it. Sadly, it's very, very sad, and especially when it ends like Roy Buchanan as well. Roy Buchanan's life ended very, very tragically and very, very sad, and he was very troubled human being. Okay, so hope I've answered your question. I'm going to move on 5 questions today. Ready? Question 6. Question 6 today has a few parts, so let's dive in. Question 6. I have 3 guitars at the moment. I have a Strat with gauge 11 strings on it, another with gauge 10s, and a vintage lemon drop with 9s. It takes me some time to adjust when I change guitars. How do you manage to play so well on all guitars that you have featured? It's just that I'm not... It's mainly because, well, I've been playing all sorts of different guitars for 17 years now, so I'm not. The only thing I've found is I can't play V-necks. V-necks actually cramp my hand up to a point where it hurts my hand, so I can't play V-neck guitars. So I avoid them like the plague. But other than that, it's just a case of, like, you know, if it's got strings on it, I'll play it. I'll make it work. So I don't really have a preference. I like all different feels of necks. I like big fat necks to really skinny necks to kind of medium necks. But there are some I don't like. I've never got on with PRS necks and some Ibanez. Some shred guitars I don't get on with. I don't like kind of wide flat fretboards. Although I don't like Les Pauls. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't really know. I just you know, if there's a guitar about that doesn't have a V-neck that I can play, I'll be happy to play it. I'll get something out of it, even if it is a bit awkward sometimes. But I just don't mind. I don't have a preference really on necks. It's just like, you know, if it feels good, then that's all that matters really. I just go by feel more than anything. But you also said, you know, Do you play so well on all your guitars because they all set up the same? No, all my guitars are different. I have a preset kind of setup of how I like the strings to look, which is normally kind of like curved like that and then up. But, well, not that drastically, but kind of slightly up. But other than that, they're all at different heights. For instance, like my Oswald Telly here is that the height of the strings on this guitar are totally different to my other guitars. And then my White Strat is different to my Oswald Strats, and my 62 is different to every guitar. They all have the same string profile, where the E, A, and the B kind of go with the radius of the fretboard, then the G, B, and E slightly ramp up. But it's not like that. They slightly ramp up, so it kind of like does that kind of thing. But not really. I mean, they're all set up differently. Each guitar has to be set up differently for them to kind of like, you know, feel the best. You know, I don't really feel of recently that, like, you know, when you set your guitars up all the same kind of string height and same kind of thing, they tend to not behave. Certain guitars don't behave. Like my Oswald John Strat, I've got the action, looks really high, but it's really comfortable on that guitar, and it just works really well. But it's high. It's the highest action I've got, but it's so comfy to play with a ridiculously high action. It's weird. I don't really know why that is. But yeah. So they're not all set up the same. No, they've all got the kind of same string kind of thing, but they're all different heights, and also pickups are all different heights as well. Like certain guitars, I'll have pickups higher than others because they sound better. You know, it just depends really. It's just whatever the guitar is. I just basically just tweak and tweeze the guitars until they sound right. And once they sound the way and play the way I want them to, I don't touch it again. You know, this Mr. Nick's Telecaster here. Apart from it came, I haven't touched these saddles. The saddles are set up the way they came. Still, I haven't moved them. I've only restrung this guitar once. The only thing I did was I brought up the treble side on both pickups. So the treble side on the neck pickup and the bridge pickup is higher. Other than that, I haven't touched anything on it. You know, it's the way it came from Nick. And I haven't touched the intonation. Don't need to and stuff like that. So you know, once it's set, I don't touch it. You know, once it's set in stone, I leave everything alone. I don't feel the need to alter anything unless it needs doing, which is very, 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 very rare. But yeah, so they're not all set up the same, no, but they've got similar aspects, if you know what I mean. But it all comes down to what the guitar is and how it responds and how you need it to respond. You also said, do you take time to break in and get used to a guitar before you review them? Not really, no. I mean, most of the guitars that arrive, I just like straight off the bat. The RTL 59, for instance, from Revelation that I got recently, and I've got now. Out of the box was just like, yep, that's the one, you know, and that's just perfect. It was just perfect. Yeah, I did have to alter the 55 slightly. It was a bit too low. I wanted to bring the action up a bit more on the treble side, but other than that, it wasn't unplayable. You know what I mean? Nick's guitars, when I get, because you mentioned stuff about Nick's guitars, Revelation guitars and other guitars. Nick's guitars come. I've never touched them. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the only time I've touched them is if the saddles have fallen. Same thing with Revelation. I only touch them if I need to, but other than that, I just get on with it. You know, I don't. There's no kind of break-in period or kind of time like that. It's like, invariably, if a company's lending me a guitar, I want to get the demo done as soon as possible and get the guitar sent back because I don't want to keep hold of it. You know what I mean? I feel like you're taking kind of liberties with a company then if you're kind of like if you're gonna take like 2 weeks to kind of play the guitar in, you know, I think you're kind of taking liberties. But the thing is, when the guitar comes out of the box and it's just playable straight off the bat and you can just express through it straight away, you know it's a great guitar. You know what I mean? If you don't have to have that playing kind of period, so to say, then, you know, it's all's well. And, you know, with Revelation and Nick's guitars and other guitars like the Sub-Zeros, it's been that way, where you just take it out of the box and it just inspires you immediately. You know, it's so cool. I love that. Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever had a guitar out of a box that I've had to go, oh, this is going to require a bit of messing around with before I play it, before I demo it. Let me think. I don't think there is. No, there isn't. I can't think of a single guitar that I've demoed where I haven't had to mess with it. Apart from the old Hat days. Some of the old Hat guitars I had to demo, I had to mess with because they were either askew here and there, and so I had to do that with some of them. But the ones I've got from other people, no. Ones from Revelation always come set up really nicely. Revelation guitars always come out the box really nice. And the same thing with Nick's guitars as well. They just come out the box and just play. They just work. So and the same thing with the Sub-Zeros as well from Gear for Music. They were gorgeous. Especially that PRS looking one, like the charcoal, kind of like the grey one. That was absolutely awesome. That guitar was awesome. And I do actually miss that guitar quite a lot. I wish I'd got that guitar, but I didn't. But yeah, so there's a few, you just make it work more than anything. You just pick it up and you go with it. So the final thing you asked was, do all guitars you play feel comfortable and play well straight away, or do you have to restring them before filming? So I think I kind of answered that, didn't I? Sorry. Yeah, I mean, most of the time, like I say, all the Revelations that come, I am tweaked. They go back in pretty much the same way they came, apart from, I get all my grubby fingerprints off them. But yeah, I don't restring them. I don't feel the need. If I don't need new strings, I don't restring them. I just keep whatever's on them. I like to play them the way they come from the factory, because that way I can give an honest opinion of how it's going to get to you. You know what I mean? If I get a guitar from Revelation and I end up tweaking it and messing with it, which never needs to be done anyway, but if I do that, then, and I say it's amazing, when it comes to you, you could like, well, what? It feels weird. It doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean? So I like to play them out of the box how they'd come to you. Like, you know what I mean? It feels more kind of like, honest. You know what I mean? Because that's the way it'd come out the box when you go on. You know what I mean? And the same thing with Nick's guitars. When they arrive, you play them straight off the bat, and you're like, that's it. But yeah, there are some guitars that feel more comfortable than others. Like, for instance, recently with the Revelation RTL 55 and the RTL 59, the 55 felt stunning, but the 59 felt better. But it didn't make that 55 rubbish, because it was still amazing, but the 59 had something that it didn't have, which is that weird, kind of like, weird, I don't know what, factor. Like, why does this guitar feel better than this guitar kind of thing? It just does. It's not for us to know why, it just does. But yeah, I invariably don't restring them. I had to restring a 59 because I broke the string recently, but other than that, I haven't restrung it. Like I say, I've restrung the Oswald Telly once. Have I? I don't think I have. No, I haven't. I ain't restrung this guitar once yet, actually. These are still the original strings that came with this guitar, and they still sound and feel great. And I really like worn-in strings. I like the low E string to have that warmth. You know what I mean? Where it really rings out, but it's got like a really warm depth to it. So yeah, they're still the original strings. I haven't changed the strings on the Oswald, actually. The Telecaster. They're still the original Telecaster strings. So I only change strings on guitars when I break them. And I don't like new strings. I don't like the twanginess of new strings. I like the warmth of really worn, played-in strings. I find new strings to be they kind of grate on me. I don't really like them as much. But anyway, but yeah, I don't normally restring guitars when they come for demos. I just leave them where they are, because I like to think that that's the way it comes to you from the factory. So it's kind of like, that I can be honest about like the way it's set up when I get it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? If it's got a bad setup, I would say in the video, but invariably from Revelation and Nick and other guitars, they just come out of the box, and it's just like, I can deal with that. That's really nice. I'm happy with that. So yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, so it's all about just kind of like just making it work and just having fun with it more than anything, and just forgetting about like the technical side of things and just enjoying it for what it is, kind of more than anything. Certain guitars will lend themselves to a certain style of playing more than others, and they will kind of steer you in certain directions sometimes, which again is not a bad thing at all. I don't think so. So hope some of that made sense. I really do. I don't know if it did, but hopefully it did. But so I hope it's answered your question okay. I hope I answered all your questions okay, and it's been an informative Q&A, everybody. I'm always terrified that it's the most terrible thing in the world. I'm giving bad advice and all that kind of thing, as you well know. I get the fear, we'll call it the fear. What game is that from, everybody? What computer game is that from? Answers on a postcard. Okay, so hope I answered your questions okay, everybody. Thank you very much for your questions this week. Thank you for watching. I will say that yesterday, where am I? Yesterday I sent off the first load of t-shirts, so they're winding their way to there's 22 sent off yesterday. So t-shirts are on the way to 22 people all around the world. Some are going to America, some are going to Canada, some are going to the UK, some are going to Europe. So thank you very much, you bought a t-shirt. If you haven't got an email back from me yet about t-shirts, bear with me, you will get one back. It's just the fact I'm doing it all on my own, and it's just taking a bit of time for me to do it when I've got other things to kind of do as well. But you will get an email back very soon, I promise, about t-shirts, and I haven't forgotten you. I won't forget. You will get yours, I promise. It's just going to take me a bit of time to get round to it, like I say, because I'm basically a one-man army. But I will get there, so just give me a bit of time, but I will get there, I promise. And yes, I need to get the next order in soon, so I will let you know. Sadly, the supplier I was getting t-shirts from has upped the price of t-shirts, so that's not fun at all. And I'm a bit annoyed about that because it's put everything into kind of like askew. But anyway, they are what they are, and I'm going to honour the price of what I set them out to be in the first place, because I think it'd just be a bit unfair at this point in time to up prices. Having said what I said, the price would be, so to say. So prices aren't going to change just for the moment. After the initial load, next load is going to go, I probably will have to put prices up, but for this point in time, I will honour the £12 price point, just because I feel it's a bit unfair on you out there for me saying that and then whacking the prices up. The people I'm getting the t-shirts from, I'm not going to mention, put their prices up, and it's just like, thanks. It's just like one of those things. But I will not up my prices just at this point in time. After this next load, I might have to, just because I'm going to be not hugely out of pocket, but I'm going to be out of pocket. But that's okay for the moment. You guys are worth it. So anyway, like I say, if you haven't got an email back about t-shirts, you will, I promise. And say 22 t-shirts are on the way, and I will get the next order in as soon as possible and get them out there to you as soon as possible as well. So just bear with me for the time being. And thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and I'll see you again very soon for another vid. I'm going to do a vid on the katana. Yes, zuz. There's a zuz in there for Friday, but I'm not going to speak any more about that. We'll get to it on Friday, but I'm quite looking forward to it, actually, because I'm curious myself. But we'll get to it on Friday. But I'll see you again then. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. Goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching. Loey.